Hey there, my crafty friends. It's Christy over at Crafty Christy's Creations. Are you into sublimation? If you are, stay tuned. You're gonna love today's tutorial. But even if you're not, this is gonna be a handy trick that you can use on other projects in Silhouette Studio. So today I'm gonna teach you how to make a fill pattern to use for sublimation. But like I said, there's other ways that you can use it as a digital paper or to use for your scrapbooking and other things. So stay tuned for all the fun. You can see here I've already pulled in some leaves, some pumpkins, and some acorn designs here, and I've already colored them with a fall color palette. I went ahead and added that to my Silhouette library, and if you're interested in how to do that, I will link to a video on how to add a color palette. And then I'll also throw in the codes for these colors if you're interested in using it yourself. And things to note, you have to have business edition if you want to be able to scale this pattern when you're done. And then otherwise you can do it in any other edition. Just know you're not going to be able to scale the pattern. You're just going to be able to duplicate the entire design. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to start off with the rectangle. You want to make a nice square design, and I'm just holding down Shift and the Alt key at the same time while I scale this, and that makes sure that both sides are the same. And I'm going to make this a 6x6. And then I like to fill it in with a color, makes it a little bit easier to work with, and then I also like to get rid of that outline color. So there is my 6x6 design, background to start with. Other things to talk about is when you put something on an edge, let's go ahead and send this to the back so now everything will go on top of it. When you put something on the edge, you want to be mindful. We're going to make a copy. Do you find this helpful? Make sure you smash that like button and hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any future Silhouette Studio tutorials. Now let's jump back in where we left off. To this side over here, but you also need to be conscious of what you're putting on the opposite edge. Because if I put another hanging design on this edge and it gets too close, when you go to replicate or scale this design, it's going to be pretty obvious. This is going to be smushed and cut off looking, and it'll be very obvious. So you want to make sure that each design is only on one edge. So I wouldn't want it here on the corner. So I'm just going to put it on one edge, and then making sure anything I put, say I put this down here, I don't want them touching or letting it hang off of this edge either. So those are just a couple things to be mindful of while you're designing. I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller, and I'll put that one here. Now to duplicate this, we're going to be using some keyboard shortcuts, and I will link to where you can grab some keyboard shortcuts, but what we're going to do is replicate a copy. So you can either come over to your replicate panel and use the keys that way, but I'm going to hold down the control key and I'm going to hit my arrow key. I'm going to make a copy to the left. Now I'm going to open my transform panel, and I'm going to come to this arrow like crosshairs. This is the move direction. I'm putting my distance as 6 inches because that is the size of our square. And then you've got your arrow keys to tell it which direction to move. So I'm going to move that one to the other side. So I'm going to move right, and it's going to put it on the other end. Then I'm going to click on this one, hit control, and then the right arrow key, and that one's going to duplicate it here. So now I've got this half on both sides of my page. This is just helping so when we go to scale or duplicate, everything's going to look symmetrical. So now I can move this one out of the way. And I'm just going to go around the perimeter and add the designs that I want to be cut off the edges. I'm going to start there, and then we'll work on filling in the inside. So now I can bring in this one here. We'll do like that. And remember what I said, don't let these get too close together. I'm going to do that there. I like the way those look. I'm gonna do that, and I can grab all of these. So I'm holding down the shift key. I'm now control and make a copy down. I'm gonna grab all of these again and the transform, and now that distance is gonna stay at that 6" and move those to the top. Grab all of these, control up to put those back in place. These can get pulled over to the side. Then I can add some more on the side over here. Okay, we'll grab all of these, and again, control to the left, holding down shift, and then we're gonna move these to the right side, holding down shift to select multiples, control to the right. Okay, our edge looks pretty good. I feel like I need something else up here, but I have to be careful where this one's at. So I might just grab the end here. But then knowing the other side is going to be this front half. So that might not work. Those are the same. Those are too close. We're just going to have to fill those in with something else. So what I think I'm going to do, the edges are pretty well done. I'm just going to fill in the gaps. So this side needs some red up here. And this is another way you can just kind of fill in these gaps. They don't have to look the same on both sides. But now I can just kind of fill in the gaps everywhere. Side needs some yellow. Oops. Control Z to undo. Boy. So actually what I think I'm going to do, grab this one and this one here. So I'm grabbing both copies so that way they move at the same time. And I'm just using my arrow key to scoot those over to help fill in that gap. And then I'm going to grab both of these using that arrow key again. I'm going to scoot those up. Actually, I'm going to move that back down. And then now I've got a little more room in there to throw in some other designs. I think these ones I'm going to rotate. Nope, can't do it like that. So if you don't like where something is, you can delete one copy, rotate the other copy, and then we can just do it again. Move that one up, and then control up to put that back in place. Still just have that gap there. All right, we're gonna move these up. Trying to fill in that gap, but not too close to the edge. This one can move. And then you have to be careful when you're selecting these to make sure they don't move when you select them. I think I like that. We're gonna scoot these over. Just trying to be mindful of that spacing again to make sure I kind of have the same amount of spacing everywhere else. These ones are going to get scooted up. And this is just the joy of designing. Sometimes you think you've got something in a good place, and then you try to fill in the gaps, and then you realize you need to move things around a little bit more. Those look a little bit too close. Okay, that looks better. I feel like I have more spaced out around the edges, pretty evenly spaced everywhere, so I like the way that looks. When we go to redo, to make copies of this, and we can even kind of check that right now, if I select everything and hit Alt, click and drag a copy, I'm going to drag that over here and I'm going to group it together to make it easier. We're going to actually ungroup. Let's send this to the back. Group all these. Now I can line up those edges and watch all those line up, and then you can see what I'm talking about when things overlap to make sure you have enough space. And that actually does look okay there. I was a little concerned we were going to get too smushed in this corner here, but that actually looks okay. So that's good. And then if you wanted to check the other side, you can pull this over, line those pumpkins up and the edge, and see what that spacing looks like. That looks good too. So we don't have much to be concerned about from that perspective. So now let's go ahead and just fill in the inside here. I'm going to throw in some red. I like the way that looks. Now, let's go ahead and get everything else out of our way. Delete that. All right, I'm gonna make a copy of our background. So Control C to copy, and then Control F, paste in front. So now I'm going to select that piece, and I'm going to select only our borders. Yep. Got it. And then we're going to come over to our modify panel, and then we're going to hit crop. And then I'm going to change the color of all of those to a different color just so we can see the pieces. Okay, and then we can come through. This is the tedious part that you have to do. We're just gonna select the pieces, unclick the background color, and then using your eyedropper, change them to the correct color. When it grabs all the pieces like that, I also like to make that a compound path. Now it has a bounding box around just that. So rubber band select. This one I believe was green. Whoops. Change the background. So let's unselect the background, and now green, and I'm just gonna, that one is already a compound path. Perfect. This one here was an acorn. That one. Okay, this one I know was orange. This we know was orange, so I'm just gonna grab that corner, and then we'll make that a compound path. This was an acorn, and then you know, if there's multiple pieces that you know are the same color, you can grab holding down the shift key. Okay, and then I can even make all of those a compound path if I want. That would be fine. I can leave it. That one I think was supposed to be green. We missed a piece. Nope. select all of that. Unselect the background. Click the eyedropper, make them green, and now make it a compound path. This one needs to be green. This one was the dark red. This red. Same with that one. And then this pumpkin was orange. Okay, I think we've got everything. Oop, this piece right here needs to be brown. And then this one doesn't seem like it cropped. So I'm gonna grab that background color again. Control copy. And what was that? Shift Control F? Nope. Control F. Paste in front. We'll grab that one, and then this corner here, crop. All of those selected. I'm going to make that a compound path. And then I'm going to give that the color that it needs. There we go. Okay, so now we have our pattern. Looks good. I think I'm just gonna move this. We can play with our inside parts a little bit if you need to, if you decide there's something else it's missing. I think I'm gonna move that. Pull that down. We need something else right here. I might just get rid of that one. Pull that one up a little bit. Let's do this. Pull that up a little bit. And I think I'm going to use this one for a little something different. Okay, that looks better. Okay, now that we have this all done, what we're going to do is make sure that we're going to zoom in and make sure our edges look correct. Looks like we lost a little bit down here. Maybe took a little too much. So I'm just going to move these. I might have moved them a little bit when I was selecting everything. So I'm just going to get these selected right to that edge. Tiny details like that matter when you're going to replicate. Yeah, see, these moved a little bit as well. Those aren't quite to the edge. And that looks good there. Okay, everything else looks good right on the edge. I like the way that looks, so let's go ahead and zoom back out. So now to check everything again, what we can do is group this all together. We can put it up here in the corner. Now I can align this in the corner to the top and the side. That looks good. And then we can make our copies down. And then you've got your seamless design. Looks like we've got a little bit of a line there. And you know what? Let's make sure, grab all of our, whoops, Control Z. Side to side they look good, but up and down we've got that little bit of a line. But let's see if we grab all of ours and let's make sure there's no line, no red line. And then I'm gonna grab both of these. Do they just need to scoot up a little bit? Looks like they just needed to scoot up. A skosh. Not quite. Okay, so let's go back and look at this original design. Something's not quite right. I'm going to get that up in this corner here. So now if I duplicate that below, we still have that line. And zoom in. Looks like the problem is these are not quite on the edge. That's what our problem is. So I'm going to delete that copy. Go back to the original. I'm going to ungroup. Still, some of these are not quite right on the edge. So I'm going to scoot those back down to the edge. That looks better. And you may have to really zoom in to see this. Okay, that one looks good. And then let's go back up to the top. So most likely what happened when I selected each piece and changed the colors, they probably moved a little bit, and that's why we have this gap. So I'm just going to zoom in and try to get these right back to the top of the page, and then we will recheck again. Grab everything again and group. Now let's see, when we duplicate to the side, there's no line there. Let's go down and then over. Still have that little bit of a line there. So I'm going to go ahead and undo until we get back to where we made the crop. And then I'm going to make a copy so that way if we don't get it right again, we have a place to start. That's the great part about this multiple undo, is you can jump back in multiple steps back to where you started without having to hit the undo button a million times. Control copy. Control F to paste in front. And now we're going to grab all of these outside pieces again. And that, and hit crop. We're going to, and then we'll bring all of those forward to the front. Let's give them a different color so we can see them all. Okay. Hopefully this time nothing moved. Now we're gonna do the same process. Unselect that. I'm gonna make this a compound path. Change the color. I think we got all the pieces. And now I'm just going to group this together. We'll go ahead and make our copies again to the side. We can get rid of all of this extra stuff. We'll make our copy below and then to the other side. And I'm just hitting Control and plus to zoom in. And now that line is gone. So we have no more line up and down, left and right. So somehow through that process, the first time we did it, something moved before we hit the crop. Something moved and that made things misaligned. But now everything is nice and lined up. So what we're going to do, we're going to, if you wanted to keep this, you wanted to still make some changes to things, you can. But I'm going to go ahead and delete all of that and delete my extra copies. All right, we've got our pattern all put together here. And now we're going to bring it to our mat. In order to save it, you need this to fill your entire mat or change the size of your mat. So I'm going to take my 6x6, I'm going to lock it, and I'm going to make this 12 by 12, and then I'm going to center it to the page. This is the part where you need business edition. I'm going to go ahead and save this. You can either save as a PNG or a JPEG, either way. So I'm going to go ahead and save as to my hard drive. And this is going to be a fall pattern. And I'm going to go ahead and save that as a JPEG. And hit OK. And I'm going to save this as 300. 300 dots per inch. That's basically higher quality of the pixels. So I'm going to save that. Now we can go ahead and open our Silhouette Studio library, and then you've got your pattern section. Again, you need business edition in order to do this. And then I'm going to open up my file explorer. I'm going to navigate to where I saved that, and I'm going to click and drag into my patterns. Okay, so now it's in my pattern section. I'm going to open a new file. And then because you're going to be printing this for sublimation, I'm going to go ahead and make myself a box that's going to be the same size as my printer size. So I'm going to unlock, and we're going to do 8.5 by 11. That'll print me a full sheet. And then I can go ahead and fill that box in with my fill panel, and then come to the fill patterns, navigate to your pattern, and then make sure that box is selected, click on your pattern. Now you can scale that design. I think that looks pretty good right there, depending on how you want to do that. And then you can go ahead and print this and wrap a mug with it or whatever you want to do. The other thing you can do, if you want to put a text overlay on there, you can grab that, and I'm going to say, hello fall. And then this, maybe you want to do, and then come back over to your fill panel, maybe pick one of those fun colors. Or you may want to do like a color that's not really there. Do that in white, get rid of that outline color so that way it'll stand out better. And then just, depending on if you're wrapping this on a mug, you may need to hold down the shift key, turn that the correct direction, size it correctly, measure your design or your cup or tumbler or whatever you're putting this on to make sure this is going to fit where you want it. And then you can do it like that, and then go ahead and print this, and then you'll just lay this part over the front where you want it. But that is how you can make a sublimation pattern in Silhouette Studio. Well, what did you think about that? I'm not quite ready to make the leap into sublimation, but I will definitely be using that pattern for my card making and for scrapbooking. So let me know in the comments what you plan to use that pattern for, and I can't wait to see what you're designing.